Holy cow, it's finally game week. Yes, we get to cover a college football game Saturday. We watched some college football last weekend. We got to see Georgia Tech. I called that one. Defeat Florida State over in Ireland. Luck of the Irish, not with DJ and the Seminoles. That Georgia Tech team, really good on both lines of scrimmage. Enjoyed it. But we get to take it on the road this week. It's Clemson in Georgia. Longtime rivalry. So much fun. This is the Orange Crush podcast with Grayson Mann, David Hood of TigerNet. Our special guest today, Eric Mac Lain. Dude, we are so pumped to have you here. I want to tell everybody really fast before we get into it. This is brought to you by our title sponsor, Chick-fil-A of Clemson and Seneca. Go see Herb Tyler and all the folks for all your tailgating needs, catering needs, whatever you need. Thanks to Lisa Nason at Nason Accounting in Greenville for her sponsorship. Well, let's go. It's football week, Eric. I know you've got to be excited. Will you be at the game, or where will the ACC Network have you this weekend?
Yeah, well, first of all, great to see you guys. Thank you for letting me be on this podcast here with you. And congrats on the sponsorship. That's some dollars rolling in there, big dog. I love to see that. Love to hear that at any show. But yeah, man, we'll be there. Right now, as you can kind of see, it's blurry, but I'm in a hotel room. We're in Raleigh, hanging out with the Wolfpack for the next 2 days. They play Thursday night. And then Friday morning, I'm beelining, baby, for the airport, heading to Atlanta. We'll be doing some shows all day long Friday. And then, 11 a.m. Saturday morning, we'll be doing our show from the field in Mercedes-Benz. And I cannot wait to be there, man. It seems like every Clemson fan I've talked to is going. So I hope that it's just absolutely packed out. And that environment is just crazy. Because the good thing about neutral sites, as much as I hate them, I love to be home and homes. I do not like neutral. I love when we can have home crowds. But the good thing about neutral sites is it's loud the whole game. You know, it's 50-50. People are going insane. And I can't wait to be there. It's going to be so much fun.
All right. So, Grayson, I told you I had a surprise question for you.
I was ready for this.
This is in regards to Mr. Eric Mac Lain, who, let me say this, Eric, if your dad, the Colonel, if he was to text me right now and say, Hood,
Mike,
pack a ruck, and we're going to go on a MAC military airlift command to Afghanistan tonight. Don't ask questions. I would pack a ruck and I'd be there. You know what I'm saying? Just the kind of dude he is. But Eric Mac Lain, coming out of high school, now we know what a good offensive lineman he was at Clemson. What position did Clemson originally recruit Eric Mac Lain to play?
Okay, I know this. I actually do know this because I did my homework with an original interview I had with Eric before the Duke game last year. He was recruited to play tight end.
No, it was quarterback.
Okay.
That wasn't until my senior year. That wasn't until senior year of college that we tried to instrument the turtle package, David.
That's right.
See, I did a good job. I was ready.
I'm proud of you. Good to know.
You knew that one.
That was 90 pounds ago. Awesome.
Yeah, it's about 90 pounds ago for me too.
We're doing great.
What a start. Eric, I'd love to get into, you took the idea of a summer road trip and you just maxed it out this year, especially with some new added miles. Just what has the ACC Network been up to, and what has impressed you about some of these new destinations that you got to visit this summer, man?
Yeah, it's one of the most favorite things that we do, man, for me, that I just love every time we get to go on the road in a relatively no stress environment, right? It's just practice, which is a big deal, but there's no games, there's no winner or loser, and everybody's undefeated. So everybody's happy. And it's always one of my favorite things that we do. So, got to go out to SMU, which was great. Love Coach Lashley. He's been in the ACC before. Now he's back. I think he's a really, just sharp offensive minded guy. And he's got those Mustangs riled up. And that was a little bit of a crazy game that we just watched them play. But they got a W, and that's the most important thing. It's much more fun to learn lessons in a win than it is a loss, and just a frustrating game, I'm sure. But anyway, great to see those guys. I think they're going to be a nice addition for the ACC. I did not get to go out to Cal, which honestly, with my travel, I was fine with that because it seemed like I was gone forever anyway. But it's always a good thing to see these guys in person before the season, because it kind of confirms things that you think. Like we have ideas, and okay, I expect X player to do this or to grow here, or, this new transfer guy, I think he can really add this way. But when you can go see it in practice and actually see how a guy is being used, or, see how maybe he fits or is doing, it's a lot easier for you to kind of move forward. So, NC State's a team that I got to see that, again, ironically, that I'm here right now, but they look really good. The skill is elite. They added some really key players in the transfer portal. I think Grayson McCall is going to be a dude. I mean, I've really liked him for a long time.
Dude.
At Coastal Carolina, 3-time Sun Belt Player of the Year. I mean, that's not by accident. He's really electric. Seeing Miami, I mean, dude, you talk about loaded. Lot of talent. The question is, can it come together? Can it go in a game and function at a really high rate? I think Cam, Ward is going to be electric. He's never had this kind of talent, this amount of talent around him that he does now, and especially looking at that offensive line that he has, that I think is going to be nasty. And then it was great to see my Tigers, see them in person and see the body types, and man, it's just knocking on wood. Can they stay healthy? Can the wide receivers specifically, stay healthy? Because they look fantastic, and guys just really, seem to elevate their game. Hard to tell quarterback wise, until it's in a game and it's real. But like what I saw physically, Cade looked bigger. The word and the kind of theme that I've heard everybody I talked to, from Marcus Tate to Barrett Carter and everywhere in between, is the intentionality of his leadership. And it's not just leading because, okay, I'm the quarterback, I'm supposed to. It seems like he's
Right.
really bought in, and you could feel that at camp and kind of see that, that buy-in, which I think is really important. And so how much better and how much of a step can he take? So that was a really long answer for your question, but those were kind of the things that we saw. And of course, just the fun, like going up to Virginia and seeing Coach E and basically the Clemson Cavaliers up there, all the people that are there from Clemson. Love going to Blacksburg, man, and just to be around the team, see the people. And that's probably my favorite part, honestly, about what I do now is my bubble for so long was Clemson, and that's a great bubble. It's a really awesome bubble to be a part of. But since doing this, all these other bubbles start popping up, and it's really fun for me because I love football. I love college football. I think it's the greatest sport in the world. And, just to see it on a bunch of different places, a bunch of different levels has been really fun for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's what I tell people all the time. That's my passion. That I love, of course, I love covering Clemson, but there's really good kids at other schools,
Yeah.
and there's good coaches that I like at other schools, and there's some places that are there. They're fun to go to. I love going to Florida State and hearing, the chant. Please give me a chance to go to Ohio State and see them dot the alley one time. But I have a great Ret Lashley story, which I will share with him when Clemson
There
plays
we go.
them. This goes all the way back to Deshaun Watson at Gainesville. So one afternoon, I get a text from Deshaun's coach. He's like, "Hey, you want to come down to see Deshaun practice? Today'd probably be a pretty good day."
So Rhett was probably at Auburn, right? That was about
So
the time.
Red's at Auburn under Gus Malzahn. He's the offensive coordinator, right? So I get to the practice, and we've been there about 10 minutes, and here comes Ret Lashley walking up. And we introduce ourselves to each other, and we talk a minute. And I text Chad Morris, who's the offensive coordinator at Clemson at the time. And I'm like, I'm at Deshaun's practice, and I kind of took a pic and showed it to him. I'm like, guess who's here with me? And I get a text back, and it's in all caps, and it's tell Ret to leave my quarterback alone.
That's amazing. I love that. That's so
I'm like,
fun.
Ret, Chad says leave his quarterback alone.
Yeah, exactly. He's a great dude though, man. He's one of the best. He's one of the best. Glad he's
They
in the
they 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 were tested against Nevada the other night. Tested.
Yeah, they were. And it was weird too how they did it, right? Because it was really uncharacteristic penalties, dumb penalties, quite frankly, after the play. Some false starts, some holding. They couldn't get out of their own way. And then defense, I mean, missed tackle after missed tackle after missed tackle. Honestly, it was probably the worst debut it could have been, right? Outside of they found a way. They found a way. They won the game. Fourth quarter comes along. Preston Stone just turns it on, like 125 yards. I think he missed 3 passes the entire fourth quarter, a couple of touchdowns. And RJ Maryland, boys, let me just tell you, that dude is a freaky tight end. He's an absolute mismatch problem. They split him out wide in the backfield, slot, whatever, true tight end, whatever it is. You better know where 82 is at all times.
Is that what they were saying about you at tight end, Eric?
No, they were like stick him on the end of the line, 5 yard out only, or block. That was the scouting report.
So, Eric, another team that was finding a way to get it done in their season debut in Dublin of all places, Georgia Tech. Just what were your impressions of that matchup? A matchup that, depending on who you asked, you either thought Florida State was a team that rightfully so was in the top 10, or Georgia Tech was going to come for them, and they're a team on the rise with Brent Key. Just what were you looking for in that game, and just were your expectations surpassed? Were they met? I mean, what a game to start the college season, man.
Yeah, my expectations were flipped on their head and body slammed by the Georgia Tech offensive line. That's what happened there. And really, actually, it was the Georgia Tech defense that did that. I knew and had a pretty good grasp on what I thought Georgia Tech could do offensively. Now, certainly they took that up a notch. I didn't think they'd be able to run the ball as effectively as they did. I thought Haynes was going to have to throw for 300 yards and have a really good day. But man, they had their way up front and as an offensive lineman, I love to see that. I mean, it was counter, stretch zone, quarterback power, counter. I mean, it was just in your face the whole game, and there was nothing that they could do to stop it. And I think that's really indicative of their head coach. I mean, he's an offensive lineman. He wants to run the football. He's a hard-nosed dude that he's going to get it going, and that team believes like crazy. And the interesting thing for me is, where does that go? Because they have arguably the hardest schedule, or one of the hardest schedules in the country. They have the hardest schedule in the ACC. But does that matter now? Are they the team that now they're adding to the strength of schedule to everybody else? So I'm fascinated to see that. As we all know at Clemson, belief is a crazy thing. And once you get it going, it's pretty hard to stop when those players are feeling it the way that it looked like they were in Dublin. And I mentioned that defense, man. They were the worst in the ACC at run defense, and like 128th, 130th in the country last year, stopping the run. They looked like everyone out there was all Americans. I mean, the defensive line snapping heads back, the flow from the linebackers, the insertion of the safeties down aggressively, making a play. I was thrilled to see that type of turnaround, because you love to see it, because number one, it proves coaching matters, and number two, kids can control what they do on the field and really make something happen. So I love to see that. Pretty disappointed for Florida State. I thought there was a lack of effort at times, because what's weird is, like, we have so many games to cover, week 0 different, but it's hard for me to really sit down and watch every single play of a game, and especially to go back and like to do notes on every single play. But when there's something like this that seems to be an anomaly, that's something that seems to be so what happened, I go and watch every single play. And I watched all 61 snaps from Georgia Tech, all 70 whatever it was from Florida State, and the effort that I saw, or lack thereof, from Florida State was a little bit shocking. And maybe that was some of reading your own press clippings and feeling kind of big, and we'd walk through this game. I hope they recover. I hope that they turn it around and are a formidable team for the league and continue to do so. But it's going to be a bit of an uphill climb. And guess what? Monday night we'll be there. That just turned into the Super Bowl with Boston College coming to town. Tommy Castellanos and company. That game is going to be fascinating to see how quickly can Florida State bounce back.
Did you know Bill O'Brien? They're going to knock you in the mouth. That's kind of what they're going to do, right?
Question. And their offensive line's reloaded. They've got a great running back. And again, Tommy is a creator. It's going to look real similar to what they just saw. They got to be ready. They have to be ready.
You talk about belief too. You get to watch the tape from the Georgia Tech game and you go, why can't we do the same thing? Especially with what David just said about a Bill O'Brien led offense. That's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, no question.
We go back to that Clemson Georgia game in Charlotte. Clemson's coming out of camp. You and I both, we'd had some brief conversations that there was concern how Clemson's offensive line was going to hold up in that football game. And then I actually decided to do that game from the sidelines, and from the first snap, it was obvious that Clemson's group was going to be just outmatched. And I can remember going behind the Georgia bench at one point, and I think it was Matt Luke told JT Daniels, he said, just don't make a mistake because they're not going to score on us.
Right.
So now, obviously, since then, there have been questions about Clemson's offensive line.
Mhm.
I asked Marcus Tate, I said, Marcus, this yesterday, I said, can you look somebody in the eye and say, we are going to be better? And he looked straight ahead and he said, we are going to be much better. What did you see in your brief, time out there?
Yeah. Well, I think for starters, you go back to that game, Marcus Tate was a true freshman starting. Walker Parks was a sophomore. And I can't remember who else was out there at the time, but those guys are grown up and grown men now. And it just really feels like it's a bit of a role reversal in the fact that maybe Georgia has a little less experience on their defensive line. Like Jalen Carter ain't running out, of that tunnel. The big other cat, I forget his name right now, ain't there. And so it's going to be interesting, to me, just to see, is Clemson able to take advantage of that, because there's still no doubt that Herbie Smart is one of the best ever and his staff is going to be ready. And, there's going to be a plan in place, but it is about the Jimmies and the Joes and who can go out there and execute at a higher level. So I am fascinated just to see the game plan approach from that standpoint. But yeah, looking at this offensive line, man, they are big, which I love to see. Some guys repurpose some weight. I don't think they lost weight, but just look a little bit, different there. And that's part of the growing up, being a grown man process. Man, Tristan Lee, I can't speak enough about that young man, where when he got on campus, we didn't know if he was ever going to play. I mean, that's quite frankly where he was. And it was not great. And he has totally changed his body, is ready to go, and is going to be a beast, And I think when you look on the other tackle spot and see the things that Blake is expected to do, what he has done in his career, how can he take it up a notch? That dude is huge. I mean, he's a big old dude. And then honestly, you look at the guard positions, you feel pretty good. Again, knock on wood that health is a thing. And then how can Ryan Lithcomb perform? A guy who has been buying his time, kind of similar career to mine, and the fact that you have to wait your turn. And now that you have your shot and you're the guy, what do you do with it? And how are you able to make the most? So I'm excited to see this line. I think there's some good depth there too. Again, unfortunately, it got developed because of injury, but some guys that are ready to play. And, I don't think that we can under stress or value the addition of Matt Luke as well, just on the offensive line, and hearing from those guys and hearing how they've adapted since, and the sense of urgency and level of detail, and just all these different things that I don't know if it's different. It seems to be stressed more, whatever that means. But seeing him in practice, like just the energy levels going up to every guy. I mean, the camp is over. This is technically the beginning of Georgia prep. And he's still going up to every single guy saying, we've got one-on-ones today. This is what I need to see. This is what you need to do. Hey, inside drill, I need this right now. Like, it's a game, and we're in practice. So I love that sense of urgency. I love hearing it. But as we three know, it is about execution. And until we see it on the field, it's hard to just talk our way through narratives.
Right. And one of those narratives that I think that has been stressed this summer has been the continuity that's returning, especially on the offensive side. When you got 4 returning starters on the offensive line, you're bringing back a litany of receivers. You're getting your second-year coordinator instead of having to flip from, because with Garrett Riley coming in, it was 3 coordinators in 3 years, and everyone just feels more comfortable in their own skin. Is that something maybe you saw at your time, thinking, yeah, this group looks like it's more about not figuring out how to do it, but just simply going and doing it, which makes all the difference?
Yeah, I will say the one thing that is not disappointing. I wasn't disappointed. I was happy to be there. But one thing that was disappointing, it wasn't camp. It was install. So it was a little bit more relaxed. There was more, scouting type period. So it was hard to get a competitive feel seeing the brutality of camp, right? Where we're going at each other every period. I get to see good on good here right now. But you could feel the synergy. You could see the execution, ball getting out quickly, going through your reads, 1, 2, 3. But again, that's just something that you won't really truly know until we're keeping score, until there's ramifications for a bad call or a bad executed play on third down, right? It's the other team's ball now. So, excited to continue to see that just in my experience alone and have watching ball and played ball. You see a massive jump year 1 to year 2 in the same system, same quarterback, same coordinator, and you expect to see that. And I think that's like the minimum, right? So what is the exponential increase that you can see if there is true buy-in, if there is a true step, kind of taken, and just how quickly can this offense get back to the playoff caliber that it played at for so long?
Garrett Riley came in yesterday for interviews. He had a bit of a beard, and I thought, holy cow,
Love
he looks
that.
a lot like
Instant
Lincoln right
improvement.
now. Huh?
Instant improvement. We love to
Beard
see
gang?
the beard. He's in. He's in. Whatever it takes.
Is he in the beard gang?
We'll get him a shirt. We'll make it happen.
But he kind of smiled and he said, what we all know, he can't wait to see Cade play Saturday because he doesn't know what to expect. We've heard all the great things, we've talked about it, but he's like, I can't wait to see him out there against somebody else. And I asked Cade today, I said, Cade, what's it like to go out there for the first time, really ever for you? And you can choose between Antonio Williams, Tyler Brown, Adam Randall, Bryant Westco, TJ Moore, like just start naming these playmakers, guys who should be able to make plays. And he grinned and he said, it's fun. It's fun. And are we going to be able to see them do a little pitch and catch? That's my question.
Right. And that's what we're all dying to hear and see, right, brother? I mean, that's at the end of the day, the talent is there. And I think it is kind of silly, just to hear sometimes, people talk about the lack of this or the lack of that. Clemson still has been performing at the highest level. It's just the weird things with injury. I mean, I don't remember a team that has been more injured over the last couple of years, for Clemson, that is. And just the weird turnovers. I mean, last year was essentially cursed. When you look at the turnovers on the 1 yard line, you look at the virtual certainty, it was like 84% against FSU, 80 something percent against Miami, and to lose those games in overtime. I mean, it's bizarre things that happen. And you even, if this can probably start back to, the Carolina game that they lost at home. I mean, that they were a win away from being back in the playoff right there. A team that probably had no business being in the playoff. They would have, if they beat them, they're in. And so, to me, man, it is that close, but that's the margin when you're talking about great. And when you're talking about making, championship runs, that's as small as a mistake can kind of be. And really, it's all encapsulated into this game because, as we all know, anytime you're playing this caliber of football, anytime that you're playing at this level, it's 5 to 6 plays that will change everything. And when and how are those going to happen? You got to be ready when opportunity presents itself.
I think with a game like this too, they've been talking about most people wait till December to get a game like this where two really established programs are going at it. And I think the reaction could be one way or another depending on the outcome. But for you, Eric, when you're sitting there as an analyst and you're getting ready to break this game down and you have to be the messenger essentially for Clemson fans, one result or the other, how should Clemson fans potentially react to this? Because no preseason number one has lost an opener in 3 decades. And so the task already is pretty insurmountable. And then you throw in the fact that it's the team of the decade in Georgia. So when you're sitting there trying to craft a message of maybe let's not pull the panic button yet, just because there is that atmosphere, I guess, tone around Clemson currently, how should Clemson fans react to this? I guess it's a loaded question because we don't know the results yet.
Well, sure. But, I think at the end of the day, either team, you lose this game, you're fine. Like, especially with the expanded playoff. Maybe a year ago, there's some questions. And even then, probably not, just because of the caliber of game that this is. But everything's still in front of you. Now, is it nice to get a W? Yes. Is it great for recruiting, great for, in-state, border states, going to the grocery store, all that? Absolutely. But literally everything is still in front of you, win or lose, this game. Now, when Clemson wins this game, I will be insufferable. I will not be an analyst. I will be a fan. And I hope I get that opportunity.
It's funny that when you talk about wins and losses and who can win and who has the advantage, Uh, Georgia is a little different beast than anybody else you want to talk about. You can put Alabama in that conversation or Ohio State, but the way that Kirby Smart has recruited, I kind of took a look at it the other day and I thought, man, are they better than Clemson at every position group? I mean, you could argue that. That's hard to overcome, but the talent level isn't it's not like, they're playing, South Montana Technical College. They're playing Clemson, which
Right.
if you look at the 247 ratings has the fifth most talented roster in the country.
Right.
So the margin should be fairly slim. Like, somebody's going to make plays, somebody isn't going to make plays. It's kind of cliche to say turnovers, run the football, flip the field, special teams, but that's it, right.
Yeah, it always is, and honestly, that would be a fun exercise. Actually, y'all should do that if you haven't already, to go by position, because I would be fascinated to see that. Just off the top of my head, like running back is probably a tie, maybe leans Clemson. Tight end, I feel really good about there. Offensive line and quarterback, you probably give it to Georgia. Receiver, not enough proven. You probably give it to Georgia. But then on the defensive side, I mean, feel pretty good about those guys. For that wear a paw on their helmet. That would be fun to go in there and look at it. But you're absolutely right, David. And again, at this caliber of a game where there's so much. I mean, I was talking to Coach Rick again. Georgia guy, Florida State guy, Miami guy. Way back when they would have those Florida State games against Florida, against Miami, against whoever. I mean, it felt like if you could score 17 points, it felt like you scored 50. I mean, just because the level of intensity, how good the defenses are going to be, how competitive and how impactful every single play is. And that really starts with who can run the ball, who can stop the run, and who doesn't make silly plays. And it's going to be at an all-time high. If you get your hands on the football, you feel like it's over almost. If you're able to have a takeaway, just because of how small the margins really are.
Yeah, in a game like this, it's gonna be something else. But I'd love to pick your brain about this, Eric. And in 21, that's going into that Charlotte game, just looking at where the programs were both at. Clemson, sixth straight playoff appearance. They're heading in, looking to make it their seventh. Georgia, just the one-time national championship runner-up, sort of trying to get to where Clemson was. And now you flip it 3 years later, it almost feels like an inverse. And so I guess my question is, let's say your dream comes true and Clemson ends up winning this game. What do you think that says about an offseason where all the talk has been about, like, just talking to Barrett Carter saying they're tired of the disrespect. They're ready to prove something. Adam Randall saying, we have the talent to do this. We just have to go show it. Would it almost just legitimize an offseason talk of progress, saying, hey, Clemson has really made going from 9-4 to beating the number one team in the country? Just what would that say about the Tigers so early into the season?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it is kind of that full circle moment. Like, okay, George, it's over, man. You had your years. Now we're back. Let's flip it back around. No, but I agree with you. I think when you look at all the talk that's been and how exhausting it can be about this and that and the lack thereof, certain things, it would be a nice reminder for everybody how good Coach Dabo Swinney is. The program that he has built, the foundation that he has built, where and how he's done it. In little old Clemson, I think is still such a fascinating thing. That again, it would be such a testament to all of that, if and when it happens.
So, with that said, I need to know, what do you think is
Ooh,
going to happen
on the
Saturday,
spot.
noon, kickoff, ABC, whole nation's probably going to be tuned in. Everybody's going to be waiting on Texas A&M and Notre Dame that night. Florida, they have a pretty big game that day. I think it's Florida Miami at 3 or 3:30. Some big games, but everybody's going to be tuned in. Game day leads in. You got to figure all those game day guys they're going to pick the Silver Britches people. But what does Eric Mac Lain think?
Yeah, I think when you look at this game and you look at the number, seems a little outrageous. 2 touchdowns is a ton, and but maybe that's just a sign of how good this Georgia team is, and they've been the standard. I don't think there's any denying that. I think Clemson has to play their A game. I mean, I don't think there's any question if you're not at peak performance, you cannot win this game. And Georgia probably has to have a little bit of a stump. They probably have to stumble, somewhere for Clemson to maximize this right now, kind of where they are and for confidence, things of that nature. Hard to give you a super accurate deal without seeing, what Cade Klubnik's going to look like. So we'll all see that in person. If Clemson wins the game, it'll be like 20 to 13. I mean, you got to keep it low scoring, keep the ball away. Maybe it's lower than that. Maybe it's 17-10, something of that nature. And I think they have to run the ball really effectively. Now, that doesn't just mean line up, run it down the A gap, inside zone 100 times. Cade's going to have to pull it. Cade's going to have a pop, get some guys involved, get Antonio or Tyler out on the edge, get those backs going. But I think there's a way that Clemson can get it done. And I can't wait to see it, boys. I can't wait to be in person. Football is back, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely can't wait. I got a final question for you, Eric. The toughest one of the entire segment. Every time I see you post on social media on this ACC tour, we see the weight rooms, Eric.
Hey,
I gotta hear it. I gotta hear which one's the best. I'm putting you on the spot.
Not even close. Clemson by 5. Nobody.
All right, maybe besides Clemson,
close to us. Nobody.
Maybe besides the one your most favorite. Let's go besides Clemson.
I love NC State a ton, and their staff is amazing. They've been very welcoming, to myself and some buddies that come. We're about to head there literally right now. As soon as I close this computer, I'm going to lift there, and it's pretty. I mean, it's hard to look better than red and black, right? Like, it's good looking for a weight room. SMU's probably coming. That new facility, it wasn't done yet. Let's see.
Money.
Virginia, a lot of money. Virginia, brand new weight room, very cool. It's not Sornex though. I kind of have a Sornex affiliation there. And then Florida State's in a year or so will be top notch. But Clemson so far ahead, boys. We're in a great spot. We've got a lot of people still nipping at the coattails back there.
My final question would be, you're at NC State. They've got a pretty good schedule. They play Tennessee early in the season. There's some teams. Georgia Tech now has kind of put everybody else on notice. NC State, Miami, Florida State, Clemson. At the end of the year, who do you see are the two teams in Charlotte?
Great question. I want to first start by saying this is by far the deepest the league I think has ever been.
Very deep, yeah.
Since I've been covering it, and there's been others that probably go back farther than I do, but still, when you look at the competitive, what we think, and maybe Georgia Tech put an exclamation point on that, it seems quite wide open. But at the end of the day, I think Clemson kind of reclaims their throne. I think it's against Miami. And you're talking about the two most talented teams in the ACC. It'll probably come down to very similar to right now, who can run the ball, who can stop the run. And if we get that, those numbers will be electric. If both teams are undefeated, I think both teams get in with the one loss coming in the championship game. If there's a little scuttle in between, it'll take some convincing. But that would be almost a dream scenario, I think, for the ACC.
Good stuff there. And I think that'll, Eric, unless you have any more final thoughts, we're hoping to have you back soon if that scenario comes true.
That'd be great. I look forward to it. Thanks for having me, God. Let's go, baby.
Swole.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
Baby.
That'll do it here. This was Grayson Mann alongside David Hood and our special guest, Eric Mac Lain. ACC Network does some great things over at ESPN. You guys got to check him out in his energy. You can see him in Atlanta this weekend. But guys, that'll do it here from the Orange Crush podcast, TigerNet.com. We got plenty of stuff on the way, and we'll be there on Saturday for the first game of the year. Take care, guys, and have a good one.